My name is John O'Neill. I farm with my wife Trish. We farm about half an hour north of Mukinbudin. Yes, so Peter, we've been farming here, or the family's been farming here for 100 years next year. So originally my grandfather and his brother and my great-grandfather, and actually one of the sisters as well. So there was 3 siblings, and my great-grandfather came out to take up new land at Wialki. It was allocated in 1927. So our home farm here is called Clarina. This is the actual, my great-grandfather's home farm, this one. So this is Clarina. So as we're going back to where they're originally from, where his dad was from in Ireland, so just outside of Limerick. So anyway, I went, myself and Trish went to Limerick to research the family history. And as it turns out, there is no records past the original guys that came here. So they were all lost when back in that period of time when there was the famine was in Ireland, and I think a lot of the church records were destroyed for whatever reason. And so you can't actually go past that point in time. So, but we're fairly confident that that's where we come from. But in Ireland, if probably the 2 most common names are John O'Neill and Mary Kennedy, and that's who they were. So, like it's interesting from that point of view. I always say that we're related to the Kennedys in America, but who knows? This rock and plaque was put here in 1994, which was the year of the family. So we had that year we did a family reunion here where there's quite a lot of, obviously, O'Neill relatives turned up, and so there's probably, 120 or 30 people here. So it was a big weekend. Yeah, convict pass. So great-great-grandfather, he came out in 1853. It's on the ship, the Phoebe Dunbar. The Phoebe Dunbar, there was only 2 convict ships that came straight from Ireland, and he was on one of them. What is interesting about that, I was talking to one of my mates one day, and he's telling him the story, and he said, I'm just going to check something out. So he rang me the next day, and he said his great-grandfather came out on the same ship. So I found that amazing that there's this person that's, still very close. And so these guys would have known each other in 1853. And we've sort of ended up still being friends. The very first year that they came out, they wouldn't have grown anything because they would have been busy clearing land. So that involved ring barking the big trees and probably, cutting all the littler ones and cutting them again as they grew again and cutting them again until they got the machines that could pull the mallee roots out of the ground, and the big dozers come along that would pull the big trees over. But it's still a lot of very just manual work. Yeah, it just would have been very tough. I know the very first accommodation they have was always referred to as the Cresco Palace because, it was made of the Hessian bags and it was very rudimentary, I guess would be. I'm not sure many people would live in it nowadays, yeah. Yeah, so, but it was just a tough time, and there wasn't, they certainly didn't have the social supports that people would have had nowadays. They didn't have the good roads that, we all whinge about the roads and that sort of thing, but they just had tracks, So it would have been a hard life, but obviously it was rewarding enough for them to stick with it. Yeah. Beautiful country out here, the big trees. This here is actually the Datjoin River when it runs, which doesn't run very often. It was running last week. We had quite a heavy shower, and so this little area the river ran for a while. Didn't run up north at Wialki, so we didn't have the heavy rainfall that was just here. Pretty much the middle of March to the middle of April, we've had about 120 mils over on the 2 farms. So things are going to be very green very quick here because the soil temperature is still very warm, and so it's just you can see the stuff bursting out of the ground. Dad, he's spent his entire life here. He was born after they took up the land here, so think probably 6 years later, Dad come along. He's classic of his generation, left school at 14, like I know so many of them did. Obviously, wasn't for him, and he wanted to get out. So he started farming with his dad. Yeah, so his dad, he spent a lot of time on council. I think he did become Shire president, and of Mount Marshall, that is. And I think in all up, it was about 30 years he spent at council. Yeah. It's an interesting area to farm in. You just have to know when to pull the trigger when you think that there's a big year available to you. And so when there's not, you also got to know when to just pull the strings in a bit and so make it through to the next period. So there's a planning involved in that. So if you've got sheep, then you want to keep an amount of grain available for a lean period. I know at times we've had oats that we've pulled out of a sort of a temporary storage that would be 2 and 3 years old, but it's fine to eat. But it's just so that's you do have strategies in place for that, and obviously in a good year, I always believe that decisions you make in big years affect you more than the decisions you make in bad years, because you can make decisions because you do have, with us it is a bit of feast or famine with the financial stuff, and so you just got to be as careful when you have a lot of money as when you haven't got a lot of money. Sally looking pretty happy to be there.
It's like a caramel.
Trish was. She's the girl next door in reality. So I didn't have to travel too far there. No, she grew up in Beacon next door, and went away to school, come back, went down to Perth, worked in Perth for a while, went travelling, and then after that, that was 91, we got married, yeah. Sport is very important. It's always been, something, the sport itself is important, but in actual fact, a lot of times it's more the socialising and the getting together with people around sport is probably what I've enjoyed as much. So you can probably tell from that I haven't had a lot of success as a sportsman. Been president of a lot of clubs, so Wialki Golf Club, Tennis Club, been on the Mucka, in at Mucka. We've been helped out with the coaching a few times, played tennis, captain, got a president of the golf league and the bowls league, tennis league. I don't know, there's probably other things too. I was P&C president, which actually that's that. In terms of a job, that's a job that I really enjoyed, because you're dealing, trying to help the young ones of the community in that sense. So was the chief judge at the sports. That was always an interesting day, and having to sort of line people's views up with abilities and that sort of thing. So that was always I enjoyed that anyway.